that you guys had when you decided you were going to create a second screen experience? So by that I mean like platforms, iOS over Android, pay versus free. What were the most important pieces for you guys?
Can anybody jump in?
Yeah.
So we built first on Facebook, and we're now sort of gone back to stealth mode there. We were on for 6 months with an open beta. We built on Facebook for a variety of reasons, social hooks, access to 1 billion people, and so on. From our perspective, mobile is absolutely the most important. You have your mobile phone at the game, you have it at the sports bar, you have it over to your friend's house. I just read a statistic this morning that some 90% of viewers now have a tablet that they're engaging with in some way while they're watching television. So it's all about mobile. Let's see, there was a second part to your question that triggered a thought. Well, the most important consideration. From our perspective, the most important consideration, this again because I come out of a television background, is that you have to be additive. You cannot detract from the telecast. You can't create viewer fatigue so that the game that you're playing on the second screen, whatever that screen is distracting you from watching the primary screen. The content has to be additive, and it has to be paced in a way that it plays into what's happening on the primary screen.
Yeah, we would tend to agree. When we looked at it, we thought the most important thing right at the outset was the fan experience. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we wanted to tackle was there's this wealth of information, and it's good information, but it's sort of nested inside of this really noisy, whether it's chatter on Twitter or friends talking on Facebook, et cetera, and the volume just keeps increasing. I mean, I'm sure Super Bowl this year will be, set another record in terms of online chatter, and we really wanted to look at how do we simplify something that, to your point, was additive. So there's a lot of products out there, I think, that are trying to virtualize games, simulate games, but the game's right here. It's like I'm watching the game. So when we think about second screens, how do we take all of this additive information but distill it down to something that's really easy to use and really high quality, relevant information, and try and make something beautiful, something that's really engaging, that a user wants to interact with. And that's why we started, what might seem a little counterintuitive, but we started with an iPad app with an eye toward, this is supposed to be lean back. It's a heads up experience. It's something that is tactile when the game action has a bit of a lull, or at the end of a play, there's a great play, I want to see people talking about it. Let's make that really easy to use. You've got enough real estate in front of you on an iPad app, and something that can be really visually interesting. Those are all the considerations we had as we set out to design SportsStream.
Yeah, and I think for us, we really dove into the fantasy sports industry. I mean, my partner and I both come from the television and the new media side, and for us, it was really taking a look at the space. And what we really wanted to try and do is figure out how to build a companion and a second screen that actually had the true fantasy sports dynamics. Like, we're all here because we love fantasy and we understand fantasy. Fantasy is about picking players, rooting for those players, and then emotionally having that, that payoff after that player that you've selected succeeds. And we believe that there's a huge opportunity in this space. There's lots of predictive games out there, and some great gambling games, and some other great social TV games. And what the biggest consideration for us is how can we, no matter how hard it's proven to be, create a really compelling real-time, experience that complements the game and the kind of the fantasy aspect of it, that it will appeal to the hardcore fan, which most of us here are, plus give the potential of tagging into that casual sports fan. Because, let's face it, whoever, whether it's us or whether it's someone else in this room, whoever can tag into that casual sports fan and get that person more interested in fantasy as a whole, it's going to benefit every single person here in this room. And whether we're the portal into this, or whether Vigil or SportsStream or Fan Candy, that's really our biggest thought when we were going into this process, apart from UI and HTML5 versus we've heard lots of that debate today, so we won't I won't dive into why we went HTML5, but that was really our big thought process.
The base idea of Vigil was to reward you, to create a loyalty program for the consumption of media. We're starting with television. And so everything you do within the Vigil app gives you points, Vigil points, that then you can redeem for rewards, gift cards, movie tickets, sweepstakes entries, etc. So all of Vigil is based on an incentive-based points economy that incentivizes users to watch different shows based on marketing, etc. So everything about Vigil is trying to tap into that relationship of a loyalty program, the relationship of the user, that all of social media is basically capitalizing and monetizing the use of our time and our consumption of media. I mean, in Facebook, we put up all this information and Facebook monetizes it. So Vigil is a way of getting you paid back for your time that you spend within social media around television. So our primary focus absolutely was the user experience, about how we could incentivize people to do different things and get paid back, and it's the app that loves you back. And because we want to be broad-based and horizontal and be the companion app that you open whenever anyone watches TV, we're going to publish on every platform imaginable.
Speaking of platforms, if you could only launch with one platform, iOS, Android, or maybe web app, like which one would you pick and why?
Web app. Well, I mean, I think web app, I think if you go HTML5, the feature set is not as rich currently as native, and HTML5 I think is probably maybe a year and a half away from being kind of generally accepted within, brands and marketers and even broadcasters. But I think HTML5 gives you the best opportunity to get to as many people quickly, and because we're kind of trying to really capture that real time, we want to be able to say, we want to be able to be in a bar with someone or be in a living room with someone, or have a broadcaster say, come and play in-gamer right now, and people can just literally go and play. So for us, HTML5 gives the most flexibility across platform, and the design capabilities of HTML5 are getting better. I think finding rockstar, Java programmers is pretty hard, and they're very expensive, but I think that if you can find the right team, I'm a big believer in going HTML5, and then if partners specify that that they want a native, well, then you either build it or you give them, charge them an NRE or whatever it happens to be. But that's where we went, HTML5.
This is the million-dollar question, I think. HTML5 is probably a faster way with less expense than trying to build something specifically for iOS and specifically for...
Well, I don't know about that.
Huh? Well, I'm not a developer. This is what my developers feel. But I don't know that there's a sure answer. I don't know that there's a single answer. iOS, iPhone's got cache, iPad's great, Google is increasing market share, is huge, easier to work with, less restrictive in their approval process. I don't know that you can really go wrong, and I'm not sure that you can go one way that's definitively right. And others may disagree, but that's my thought.
I don't think you can. I don't think there is a silver bullet. I think HTML5. We started out with native across Android and iOS, and now we're switching to a lot of HTML5 to try to skate where the puck's going to be in a year or so when it's ready. Yeah. But right now, I think our developers say that there is no silver bullet. So.
Yeah, we feel the same way. I said before, we started with the iPad for a particular use case. We were trying to do something where users got a particular device while they're watching a sporting event on television. The thing underneath we did was a common code base doing HTML5 and JavaScript so that we could do a web app that would run on somebody's laptop. So we had some choice and some versatility there, some efficiencies in our development cycle. But then again, when we went to do our iPhone app, we did it native for performance reasons. And it's something, even Facebook goes back and forth with their decision making on which way to go with this. So, I think what you have to do is sit back and look at what are you trying to do. If you're trying to go for the biggest addressable market possible, and get some efficiencies there, then I think Nick's point's really interesting. If go with a web app, maybe you can port that over to mobile platforms more easily, but you really got to sit and think about what you're trying to achieve. So just go straight mass market or trying to do something, this is something that's supposed to be on the go, want to be super performant, then you're probably looking at iOS with a hard eye towards Android because it's gaining such great market share.
Well, the other platform that we didn't even talk about is Facebook. I mean, Facebook is a platform in this realm